So I've actually put in a bit of effort to prepare for this live. Hope you guys appreciate it. So this sort of stuff can be quite overwhelming and confusing and hard to digest. So I've really tried to simplify it as much as possible. And you might even have to watch this video a few times or look at some other sources to fully grasp and comprehend the sort of terms that I'm using and what I'm talking about. If you're an accountant or you have experience with accounting, which I don't and I didn't, you'd pick up on this a lot quicker because it's pretty much accounting, this whole fraud that's going on. Okay, I think I'll start. I guess people can join in or watch the repost, so I'll post this afterwards. And yeah, so I hope you find this informative and you can understand how things work and how they actually turn us into legal fictions and make money off us, pretty much. Alright, so I am just going to flip this over because I drew a little whiteboard thingo, because some people are really good at visual stuff, so I'm just going to flip it over. Alrighty-o, there's my drawing. I'm not the best at drawing, but it'll have to do. Alright, so as you can see, in 1993, the Federal Reserve actually confiscated privately held gold in the banks. And this is what actually backed the economy. So gold was the form of currency back then. And it had value and worth. Okay, as you know, that's what they used to exchange goods and services. But they then replaced this with securities, okay, which has U in brackets, I'll explain that down the track, of equal value, which eventually all add up to nothing, to zero. And this system is all about balancing the books, okay? So the government converts the birth of a child into a financial asset to underwrite the public debt, okay? So this signs us up, or them up, or whatever, to have to pay taxes, fees, registrations, whatever they use to get us to pay for the public system, okay? Now, every transaction you have participated in is based on the presumption that your labor has been voluntarily pledged to pay the debts of the country. So every account opened in your name is to leverage issue future securities, okay? I'm going to go back to securities, okay? So the definition of a security is securities are financial contracts such as shares or bonds that grant the owner a stake in an asset. So they have two key features. They give certain rights to the owner and they can be traded in the financial markets. Okay? So you heard that loud and clear. Securities can be traded in the financial markets, which is you at the end of the day. And that's how they make money off your bonds. And I'll explain that as we go down the track. Okay, so what are we up to? Now, let me turn this back on me. Alright, so I'm going to elaborate on that whole process. But pretty much, right, when we're born in a country, we are all entitled to the shares of that country, the wealth of that country, the resources of that country. And so what happens is, by creating this birth certificate and legalizing things, they're actually mirroring you from the private into the public realm, okay? And when you're in the public realm, you're no longer considered a living sovereign being. So I'm going to turn this back around, okay? So think of it this way. So you have private and public. In the private is what the Creator has given you, you know, fresh air to breathe, the fruits of your own labor, okay? The resources, water, all that kind of stuff. Or whatever you've made, that's yours, okay? You don't pay taxes and crap for whatever you make or whatever business that you have, right? Okay, let me just turn this back around. Now, so what happens when we're born using the birth certificate? They mirror our estate in the private and create one in the public realm, which we then need to pay for all of those things, okay? So you can see, this is the public, you know, so he's got the sun, you know, water, food, his own car, and then you got the public. That's I know my drawing's really bad, but that's the little legal fiction there, and he has to pay for, you know, electricity and water and food and to drive his car around, you know, his hard-earned car. Okay, so what happens is that when this happens, they are now becoming the creators of us in a public world, in a corporate legal fiction realm, okay? So that means they own us. So just remember that. All right. So the process of legalization, I've written it there, I've summarized it there, is when you create a fictional mirror image counterpart of your private estate into the public venue. So essentially the state clones you into the public world, depositing your presumed security future pledge into a public account for the creation of securities. This legalizes your labor into a public estate. So you act as surety for your portion of the public debt. Every time your strawman is charged, the government is seeking to tap into your estate or trust designed as insurance to underwrite the public debt, okay? So certification, okay, where's that word coming from? Certification, birth certificate, right? Is the obligation to perform transferred from public officials to legal citizens, okay? So what happens there is, what this essentially means is this is their way of turning public servants who are meant to serve us and pay the public debt into authorities who now make us pay instead. And this is all because of our ignorance and our lack of knowledge. So they're actually the trustees, so they're liable. But then they make us into a substitute trustee, and we don't know this. Okay, and then what they do, right, and how they profit is by, you know, putting securities on the stock exchange, and they make money off the bonds of our estate. So pretty much what's happened here is we have Australia and we have the Commonwealth, which we're all entitled to a share in of the natural resources and everything. They've actually cloned Australia as well and privatized it. Well, I mean, I guess it would be Terra Australis, and then they've cloned that into Australia Incorporated. Just as they've done with us as, like, you know, the private living man or woman, they've cloned us into all capitals legal fiction. Okay? I hope you guys are keeping track of this. It's a little bit complicated, but this next round will help clear things up for you. I hope, because I've created another whiteboard actually. So I'm going to come over here. Alrighty, now. So let's go to this next whiteboard. So I'm going to explain the steps of how this happens when you're born, and eventually I'll get to like how you can rectify it. Alrighty, so I'll just turn this around to my other board. Okay, there's a bit of reflection on there, but it's okay. Alrighty, so this is the order of events. Okay, so these are all the orders of events as to how they turn you into a legal fiction and how you consent, right? So the first event is, right, your mother, she was the carrier and she made delivery. You know, these are all terms in the legal realm. And therefore she's the guarantor, okay? So let me tell you what a guarantor is. A guarantor is a financial term describing an individual who promises to pay a borrower's debt in the event that the borrower defaults on their loan obligation. Guarantors pledge their own assets as collateral against loans, okay? So their asset is you, which they brought into the world. Oh man, I know, parents out there, you didn't know, so it's all good. We don't judge you. Anyways, continue on. So the next step is, so when you're actually born, right, you fill out this form, well, this isn't for New South Wales anyway, in the hospital, right? And this is the registration, birth registration form, or the registration of live birth, okay? So this is an example of mine from New South Wales. Yeah. Anyway, so this is filled out. So this is actually, right, this is the deposit of the pledge, which is certified by the registrar. And it pretty much legalizes the pledge by converting the presumption of pledged labor into a security. So this means that, you know, it's pledging the infant's future labor. So this is that moment where the obligation to perform is then transferred from public officials who are sworn to act as trustees of the public trust to legal fiction strawman created, okay? So the government actually have the original of this, but they'll never send it to you. They'll give you a certified copy by the registrar, whatever her name is. There's a name somewhere there, Amanda Iana, something like that. Okay, so you will never get the original because they keep that locked up in the treasury because that's the original security. It's worth a lot of money. So it has, you know, your identification number, which will follow you throughout your life. Has your name in all capitals, you know, and even the date. Where's the date here? The date of registration somewhere down here. And yeah, so this is what they use to get you to be tricked into this whole scheme of things. A lot of people like to use this because, can you see there, it has born alive? So it's actually stating that you were born alive. Like, you weren't a stillborn, you know, you're not dead, you're not a legal fiction or legal entity. A lot of people like to use that as proof. So let me just turn this around. So yeah, so I obtained mine through service. I obtained my form through Service New South Wales. I have the link for that where you actually you print it out, you fill it out, then you go to nearest Service New South Wales and you pay to have your birth registration form. It was funny because when I went and did mine, she had never heard of this form before. She's like, I've never seen anyone ever get this. Like, what's your reason for this? And I always like to, you know, red pill people a little bit. And she was just like, whoa, like she looked really mind blown. And I was like, well, you know, I'm just trying to get out of the system, love. You know, I just kind of cracked a few jokes. But I got a bit of a fluoride stare, so I don't know. It's something standard these days. But anyways, so South Australia and Queensland have a form of their own. So if you were born in South Australia and Queensland, you can get one of those. But unfortunately for the other states, I don't think they actually have this. I don't know. I haven't been able to find it. If you've been able to find it for, Victoria, Tasmania, Western Australia, Northern Territory, and ACT, if you've been able to figure it out, do let us know, because there are a lot of people out there trying to get these things. All right, so let me turn this around again. So the issue was, right, and this is where the first mistake happened, in this number 2 here, right? So what was supposed to happen with this, all right? The mother, she was meant to hand it with a will, okay? So the mother, the guarantor, was meant to hand that registration form with a will to express her intentions and indicate that when the child, the son or the daughter, turns 18 years of age, that child will be sole administrator of the estate, or that they are the beneficiary of the estate. So that was where the first step that we went wrong, that the mother should have sent that with the registration of live birth, like a will, okay, stating this as an instruction. And then what happens is they send you a birth certificate. So the birth certificate is from the government to you, obviously. This is a record of your pledge of future labor to actually fund the government. So it's like, it's evidence of your interest now. So it's pretty much the debtor, and this is because the birth certificate is borrowing from your estate to acquire title to property. And the fact that it's not identity, can be proven because it actually says that you cannot use this for a form of identification. But when we go to places like Service New South Wales, we can provide that as a form of identification, because then we become and consent to being the trustee to pay for everything. So it's really interesting. It's right in our face and we don't even realize. And there's another big hint, that, birth certificates are not what we think they are. All right, I'll just turn this around. Okay. So when your mother actually placed that security in trust, she didn't get equal value in exchange. So there was a debt that was created on the books, and that's what's actually being held in trust, okay? And so that birth certificate is acknowledging the receipt and that there's debt when they issued the birth certificate. So sorry, that's them acknowledging that there's a debt by giving you the birth certificate, to summarize that. All right, so the next thing that happens, right? So you go on with life. And you go through school and you go through the whole indoctrination program and, get brainwashed and total rewriting of history, all that jazz. And then when you get to the age of 18, right? And 18 is such a wonderful age. We all go and have a big party, don't we? It's just the irony in all of this, right? So when we turn 18, there are 3 things that we need to do within this system to show them that we consent to this, right? And so those 3 main things, when you turn 18, what happens? You get a tax file number because you probably start working. You register to vote. Okay, there's another one. You get a driver's license. Okay, you pay for a bill. Whatever it is within the system, it takes 3 of them, three signatures, use of identification, and consent, ways to consent to solidify that, yep, that you are in agreement to what's going on here. Okay. I just turn this around. So, okay. So when that happens, they assume and presume that you have consented to this system. And then you continue on with life, eventually you get to the age of 25, and that is when it's official. You've sealed the deal, it's official. They assume that you abandoned the estate. or your estate, right? Because you don't do anything to rectify this. Sorry, there's a glare there. All right. So this is where we go wrong again. Well, for the third time. So the first thing was, mum was meant to express her will and intention about the estate. And then you, between the ages of 18 and 25, you were supposed to step up and take control of the securities, right? And to tell them that, you're the beneficiary, right? So because you failed to do that, the government steps in as beneficiary. And so now, by the time you turn 25, the process is a lot more difficult. Okay? So, and this is what's the messed up part is, right? Because you didn't return that birth certificate and endorse it. So endorse means instructions from the beneficiary. So the beneficiary was supposed to endorse the birth certificate and send it back. Because you never did that, and now you're holding that certificate, you're now the administration, the trustee, okay? And they actually create an office for you so that you can administrate your own security account. But because you didn't return it with instructions, endorse the birth certificate, as I was saying, they then do it for you with a cost. So this is like so messed up. So not only are they making you liable, okay, for everything when you're the beneficiary, and you shouldn't be liable, for your own estate, right? Now they're making you pay administration fees because they're doing work for you. And instead of working for you, they're plundering your estate and taking money from you. So it's like fraud after fraud after fraud. But this is because of our ignorance and our lack of knowledge, I guess. But now we know. And yeah. So let's just go back to here. So, and now another thing I wanted to say is, so when you're the trustee, all acts and statutes apply to to the trustee, okay? So if you're holding that birth certificate, all acts and statutes apply to you, not the beneficiary. Acts and statutes don't apply to the beneficiary, okay? And like I said, between the age of 18 and 25, you can still send the will and express your intentions. But after 25, there are two paths that you can actually take. Alright, so let me explain the two options if you're over the age of 25. So there's an easy path, which will bar all claims against your estate, and there's a harder path, right? But this will allow you to claim back all that money that they took from you, they stole from you, from your estate, back to the age of when you were 18, on your 18th birthday. Okay, the first easy path, and this is personally for me, this is what I prefer to do, or I've done. You just need to obtain power of attorney of your estate from your mother. So you just write out, I give my child power of attorney, I, the guarantor of the estate, identified by this number, give, this person, whatever, my daughter, the power of attorney for this estate. And then you also need to endorse your birth certificate and send it back to the Treasury. Now, here's the problem. The Treasury has actually stopped functioning. Like, there's no one there apparently since the pandemic. How convenient, right? But it doesn't matter, because once you get power of attorney from your mum, that is the most important thing, because you can use that for your protection. And you can say the guarantor, the one who was a part of signing the estate and put her asset, which is you, into the estate, has now given me full power of attorney. And you've got that written. And there's actually a process, which I haven't done the other process, but if your mother has passed away or deceased, or they just won't do it because they think you're trying to steal all their assets or something, there's another default way to do it. But thankfully my mum was really cool about it. She trusts me, so I was able to just get her to sign. And you need to sign it in front of a witness, a JP, sorry. And you keep that handy. That's yours. You don't need to give it to anyone or send it anywhere. But you keep it handy if you ever need it. Okay, because it's showing that you're the power of attorney of the estate now. So all claims against the estate are now barred, and you're committing tax and securities fraud if you try and tap into the estate without consent. And I don't know if you guys remember, there was a video of the court case where the lady was speaking and she was saying, I don't consent to be, I'm the beneficiary of the trust. I don't consent to be showed in the bond. And they dropped the case because she was saying she's the beneficiary. Only the beneficiary has rights to administer the estate. They can't touch your property. They don't have the right to. And when you know this information, they freak out. The other path is a little bit harder. So you actually need to get a proxy. And a proxy is like a Trojan horse within the system to control something to be able to get into the system and delegate your estate. And it's a lot complicated. To be honest, I preferred not to go down that path because for me, my time and energy is very valuable. But some people might want to go down that path and reclaim all their securities and whatnot. But it's very complicated. They don't make it easy. And a lot of the times, they are actually corrupt. They don't listen. They send back your letters. And I've heard stories of people who have received random calls from these people, and they say things and hang up on them. And it's just like, you just go down this untraveled territory where you just deal with weird shit because, you're getting close to the pot of gold, so to speak. And personally, I have a lot going on in my life, and that's something I didn't want to devote my time and energy to, but you might be different. You might be passionate. You might have time and energy to do that. So yeah. What was the next thing? Okay, so the next thing I just wanted to highlight that I've written on the board. So what do you do actually once you have claimed your estate? So you get all the money that they've taken from you, that you've paid, all the tax, all the times they've tapped into your estate for registrations, bills, fees, and they've probably made money off your bonds too. So it's a lot of money, but it's not easy. And you know what? People who have discovered it, they don't live to tell it, or they have to sign a non-disclosure statement. Like we don't actually know. I don't know. It's very hard to really know exactly how to do it. But if you learn the system and you know how it works, you might figure it out. Okay, so the thing I wanted to show you was here, a minor. Okay, it's in legalese. A minor is actually an individual who's obtained the age of 18 but has not yet taken control of the securities in his or her minor account. So like what that means is like you could be 55 and if you haven't taken control of your securities and your estate, you're still considered a minor. And this is right in our faces. You can look that up on the internet. I mean, it's a little bit hard to find in normal dictionaries because obviously they hide those definitions. But if you look up like the actual legal term of a minor in securities and trust law, probably, that's what it says. I looked it up, I found it, I read it somewhere as well. So we're all minors if you haven't reclaimed your securities in your estate. Okay, now this is really important. Now, He who creates owns. So what that means is, he who creates owns. The government actually created the public estate. Okay, they're the ones that legalized it. So technically, they own it. Okay, but that's not a bad thing, because ownership is equal to liability, which means that they pay up, not us. A way I can kind of get you to think about this concept is, okay, say you own a car and you rent that car out for people to use, right? Who pays for the maintenance? Who pays for the servicing, the cleaning, the taking care of the car, making sure it runs properly? It's you, the owner of the car, not the one that's renting it. Okay, so that's what I mean by ownership equals liability. They're the ones that are liable to make sure that everything is going well, and they are the ones that have to pay. So the concept is, right, it's, you want to own nothing in this public realm, own nothing and control everything. Because ownership is responsibility and liability. And there was actually a court case that happened that I read about, where the guy, he went in there and he said to the magistrate, he goes, "Your Honor, am I in your custody?" Because they got a warrant for his arrest and they dragged him in there. And the magistrate said, "Yes, you are." And he asked again, and she said yes. And then he said, "Your Honor, one last time, am I in your custody?" And she said, "Yes, you are." And he goes, "Well, for the record, you've just said it 3 times. You've just admitted to being the trustee and the liable party." And she lost her shit. She dismissed the case and he was out. Okay, so that's just an example of how this works. And okay, when I get pulled over, so whenever I get pulled over for speeding or whatever, I'm not a dangerous driver, but I've been pulled over a few times and had the good old authorities come up to my window. I always say to them when they ask for my license or whatever, I say, "I'm the holder of this, but the state owns it." And they look at me like, "What the hell is this bitch on about?" But this one time there was another guy, he's like, "She's a sovereign citizen," or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, please don't say that. You sound like an idiot." And guys, if you're new to this, please do not say you're a sovereign citizen. Anyone who says that, it's a little bit embarrassing, because a sovereign and a citizen are totally opposite. It's an oxymoron, because you can't be sovereign, which is free from the system, and a citizen, which is a slave to the system. It's just, I think they're taught that, to say that to trick you. Because I actually went to court for, I think it was a 10-kilometer speeding fine. I was learning about all this, and I wanted to apply it. So I was like, I don't know, just challenge this 10-kilometer speeding fine. It's not a big deal, So I was learning all of this, and I went in there, and I did the whole, I'm the beneficiary, and they asked me, they said, I challenged a jurisdiction, and then I said that I'm the beneficiary, and then they said, "Well, are you going to come to the hearing?" And they started to panic. And I was like, "Ooh, I've hit a little nerve here." Anyways, they ended up continuing on with the hearing. And I went to the hearing, and the magistrate, they put me in this random room, it was a really interesting courtroom, and it was for serious cases, and usually they'd put all the traffic people in the same room and they get it all done real quick. Anyways, so he calls me up, and he calls me up, and I said, "That's the name I answer to." And and he was like, "So what do you want me to call? So who are you? Want me to call you?" And I'm like, "Just call me D." And so, because I didn't want to identify myself and link myself to my legal fiction. So he knew what I was trying to do, and he was playing along with it. It was a really interesting case. And then he said to me, he goes, "So what are you, a sovereign citizen or something?" He said that to me, and I said, "No, that's an oxymoron. I can't be sovereign and a citizen." And then he goes to me, so don't you hold a license? He goes, he goes, don't you have a license? And I said, I'm a holder of a license, but I don't own it. The state owns it. And then he kind of pauses for a bit and starts thinking. And it's like, but didn't you agree to the terms and conditions when you signed for the license? And that to me was big, because he's literally validating, right, that this whole system is based on consent. Because he's asking me, didn't you agree to the terms and conditions? He's just validated that this whole system is based on consent. And that's a big, big thing. You know, because magistrates, they really try to hide this from you. They make you out like you're some nut job, right? Anyways, so, and then I said to him, well, at the time of signing the terms and conditions, I did not have full disclosure of what that entailed. And he kind of leans back in his chair, because he's throwing curveballs at me, and I'm dodging left, right, and center. You know, that's what they do. They're trying to trick you to consent contract, right? And then he's like, okay, come back at 2:00 and we'll settle this case. And it was like 10 o'clock. So I waited like 4 hours, came back. It's like, oh, look, I'm going to have to adjourn this. Can't do it today. And just adjourned, right? So he's just stuffed me around for 4 hours. My whole day is gone. And he ends up adjourning. And I don't need to tell you why he adjourned. I think it's pretty obvious, okay? But after this experience, I started to really reflect on this whole, sovereignty stuff and, fighting with the system and fighting in court. Because I've been to court quite a few times now in relation to these matters or this other, what else was it? There's been 2 speeding fines and public health orders and stuff, whatever. I'm just tired of going in there. Like, you walk in there, right? And some grim reaper guy looking at you, and, when you know how corrupt it is and you know what's going on, it's like it drains the life out of you going into those courtrooms. And actually, when you learn about securities and trusts and reclaiming your securities, when you actually reclaim your securities and become the beneficiary, it's actually a breach of trust to walk into a courtroom, because beneficiaries don't go in there. It's not, it's breaching trust, because you shouldn't be in there to pay for anything. That's the trustee is in there. So it's a breach of trust. And if you walk in there, living men and women are not recognized in there. That's their realm. That's their turf, so to speak. And you walking in there and saying, I don't consent to this, I don't consent to that, they don't care, because you're there. And they need you to walk in there to consent to being surety for the bond, okay? Sometimes, on rare occasions, if you're really good at speaking and knowing what to say, they will dismiss the case, but it doesn't happen often. They'll say, you're here, you made the effort to come here, okay? You're in this realm, you're consenting. Your mere presence is consenting and agreeing to this whole system. So, personally, knowing what I know now, I don't want to waste my time going in and out of courts anymore and fighting every little thing. Because that's being part of the matrix. That's draining your energy. That's taking your time. Like, they stuffed me around. I lost my whole day going into that courtroom, right? He makes me come back after 4 hours, and then he adjourns. Like, that's piss taking. And you know what? If you want me in there, you can drag my ass in there, because I'm not going to go in there willingly and waste my whole day, And that way, you're proving that you own me if you can drag my ass in there. So you're liable, right? So this is my approach now. This is how I personally see and deal with things. And I just don't want to play their game anymore. I know who I am. I know I'm a free, sovereign woman, and I embody that. And I live freely. Okay, I'm not going to say things on here, but I know who I am, and I embody that, and I take responsibility for myself, okay? And I don't need no one to give me a piece of paper or, throw things at me I don't need that. I know who I am, and that doesn't affect me one bit. Okay. And I think this is the most important part of it, is we need to know who we are and embody that, and not allow this system to bring us down, because that's what it's constantly doing. It's, with the flashing blue and red lights, it elicits that fear response in you, like something's wrong. It's all energy at the end of the day. And when you don't give to me, when I don't give my energy and my focus on those things, they don't even come into my life. Like it's something I've really been trying to practice is embodying sovereignty, and not even thinking about that, and knowing who I am, knowing where I stand, and knowing that if this ever came across in my path, I know what to say, and that's that. Like, I mean, if you understand the system, you know what to say. So knowledge is power. So it is good to know this, but sometimes I've seen people get so fixated on this stuff that they become consumed by it, and that's just, again, being drawn into the matrix, getting consumed by it. They're distracting you and taking your time and energy in another way. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you guys understand what I'm saying when I talk about embodying, sovereignty. And I honestly do think that what will happen is we will have like two societies, and eventually you will have those who want to subscribe to a world of like AI and constant surveillance and being tracked and traced and what else, like controlled and enslaved and own nothing but they're happy, that kind of shit. Like I think that we have a choice, and that's one of them. Or we can take responsibility for ourselves and grow our own food, take care of our health, eat healthy food and fruit and veggies. I'm not a fan of going to Woolies and Coles because I know they freeze their fruit and veggies and it's all GMO'd anyway. Take responsibility for yourself, be self-sustainable, self-sufficient, not reap and deplete the resources of the land and mine everything and dig up everything, but live in harmony with nature, like that kind of thing. I do really think that we have two paths etched out in front of us, and we decide essentially. And it may be hard to live in between. I mean, maybe we could use technology for good eventually when, humanity starts to work on themselves and their issues and their survival mode. And rather than take, it's, let's help one another out, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I could have a whole nother live on this topic. And I really want to do another live on natural law, because that really resonates with me. And so I'm a big fan of natural law, as you know, and natural law is just above all. And it's like you can't, it is what it is. You can't change things. But I'll elaborate on another live because it's been a long live. I think that's it in relation to all the birth certificate stuff. I guess you can rewatch this and keep rewatching it. And on my group on Telegram, if you click the link in my bio, there's like a link tree thing that comes up, and there's a Telegram link on that. So if you join that and you scroll through the whole group, it's just a channel, so it's not like people typing and writing the whole time, it's just me posting. You will see the videos that I post, and watch those videos if you want to empower yourself and arm yourself if you're ever confronted with authorities and stuff. And do you know what, like, I'm hearing so many amazing stories of people who are able to speak their truth when confronted by authorities, and authorities don't even know what to do or say, and they just walk away. because you get them to a point where you question them. Eventually they get to a point where they're like, fuck, like this is true, like this is corrupt, like I don't know where I get my authority from, like what's going on here. Like you can see it in them, and you're actually educating them that they're part of this system, you know. And if they are corrupt and they're happy to, you know, be a police officer just to like have some sort of power, and they have some power trip, well, we're not gonna make it easy for them, and they're gonna be miserable, unhappy people, because eventually more and more people are waking up to this. It's becoming more and more common, you know. There was someone driving the other day with no number plates. Like it's becoming common, like it's a thing now, and they got to accept it. And I think the best thing is when there's mass disobedience, because they can't control that. And as long as you're living your truth, you're standing in your power, that's it. That's the key, you know. You need to embody it. And being sovereign doesn't mean going out there irresponsibly, like running people over and stabbing people. No, that's not part of sovereignty, and you won't get away with that. Like you can't harm another being. So don't take this as like an opportunity to, you know, get revenge on others and walk away from it, because that's not what's going to happen, and that's not how natural law works. And this is why I love natural law. Anyways, there was a question about chemtrails and how we can protect ourselves from them. Well, the first priority to me is to stop them. There needs to be something done, I guess, because I see them every day. People see them every day. Maybe, you know, we need to unite and, you know, confront them. I don't know. But in the meantime, the biggest thing I think to protect yourself from this is continually doing heavy metal detox. I've honestly, as you know, I'm a naturopath now, and one of my niches and things that I'm really passionate about is heavy metals. This is because heavy metals have been used as a tool to literally poison us, and we're literally poisoned before we're even born. Heavy metals can be passed from generations to generations to generations. So if the mother and father have heavy metals within their system, heavy metals can pass blood-brain barrier, can pass all parts of the body. So if you're conceived in a body from two people who have heavy metals, it is highly likely that you will have heavy metals, will be born with them, okay? And people think genes are, you know, everything, and genes, like, oh, I'm unlucky, I have this gene, I have that gene. No, it's heavy metals that are destroying the genes, okay, the DNA. And so I'm a really big advocate for heavy metal detoxing, and I think the best thing we can do is take care of our health. Like, that is the biggest fuck you to the system. Take care of our health. Eat good quality fruit and veg. Try to have organic, non-pesticide, or do things to wash off all the pesticides and stuff, because that's full of heavy metals. There's so much we can do. And I mean, there's simple things like having bentonite clay, activated charcoal. Zeolite's another thing, but some people are a little bit funny about zeolite. I've used it, I've been okay. Everyone's different. Spirulina is really good as well, and chlorophyll is great as well. It's a good blood purifier. And obviously, being a naturopath, these are the products that I sell because I know how important they are. And if you want to have a look on my website, you can. There's like a shop there. You can have a look at the different detoxification products, I call them. So yeah, I'm really big on heavy metal detoxing, and there are actually 3 things I want to talk about that I think are the recipe of disaster, and I think that this is being used as a weapon against us. First thing is mould. Okay, mold is becoming a big issue. The second thing is heavy metals, as I've spoke about, and the third thing is EMFs. Okay, so when you have those 3 things combined, it's literally a weapon to really devastate our health. So we have to be very mindful of this. And I come across people who've been exposed to mold, and all of a sudden they become really sick, but they don't see the connection. Mold is highly toxic, but what makes it even more toxic is heavy metals and EMFs. So mold will latch onto heavy metals and travel around the body. Even some pathogens feed off heavy metals, especially Epstein-Barr virus, which, you know, that's another thing that's, you know, they've got against us. And EMFs, there was a study actually done where a petri dish of mold was placed next to an EMF emitting device, and that petri dish of mold grew 600 times. And I don't know if you guys are noticing, but there's like 5G towers going up everywhere. And this is a really big concern for me. And I really feel that we need to do something about it, or we need to move away from this whole AI 5G world or system, because they are weapons, energy weapons, and they're making people sick, especially if you have mold and heavy metals, because heavy metals are a conductor for EMFs, draws it into your body. So this is why I think heavy metal detoxing is really important, just as a protective mechanism, whilst we deal with, you know, all this shit going on with geoengineering, chemtrails, and, you know, all this stuff that they're putting out there, chemicals, whatnot. So yeah, there are things you can do to protect yourself from EMFs. I have, someone wrote they have a shun guide. I have a shun guide as well. I have a little like thing that I bought from Blue Shield. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but I think I feel better when I have it on me. But at the end of the day, guys, like, I really think that something needs to be done about these things, towers and stuff going up. And we can't ignore it. So I honestly, this is my biggest conflict right now, is figuring out how to get rid of this stuff. The chemtrails is one, and the 5G towers is another. And if we stop those two things, I think everything else is fine. But those are some ways that you can protect yourself. And yeah, I'm really big on heavy metal detoxes. So get into it. Get into the activated charcoals, the bentonite clays, and spirulina is great. Spirulina actually gets rid of heavy metals and pathogens. I do have a supplement that's really good at detoxing a lot of things, but you can't just buy it off the shelf. You'd have to speak to me first, because I need to make sure that, you know, it's not going to be too much for your liver or whatever. So if you're interested, just message me and I can, you know, get you a script for that. But yeah, I'm very passionate about heavy metals, and I will definitely be talking more about it. And it is another weapon that they've used against us, and people are becoming more intolerant because it's just accumulating in the body more and more and more from past generations, and we're being exposed to it more than ever now. And what happens with mercury is when it enters your body, it coagulates and finds other mercury. Like, it's like, you know when you have water and then the water finds like a little droplet of water next to another droplet, and they find each other and they just like build up. It's like that. That's what mercury does, and it causes so much damage. And I'm just like, we need to get rid of this. So I'm a big advocate for heavy metal detoxing. And if you think you have a heavy metal toxicity, it's one of those things where it can cause all sorts of symptoms like depression, anxiety, OCDs, and a lot of like neurological stuff. It could even cause autoimmune conditions. I think I really, in clinic, I see people, and a lot of them, I just want to like detox the hell out of them. And a lot of them do feel a lot better. But if you have serious heavy metal toxicity, you need to have professional support. I wouldn't do it on your own, because if you don't do it right, it actually can cause a lot of damage on its way out. Is our cattle getting vaccinated? Okay. Here's the thing, like, this is another thing that I really wanted to talk about, and you just reminded me. there's a lot of fear going out there, like a lot of things that are putting people into a state of fear. Personally, I don't eat meat unless I know it's organic and grass-fed, because grain-fed meat is highly toxic and acidic, and I would avoid all other forms of meat that's not organic, grass-fed, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of things out there. For example, like food shortages and all that stuff that elicits fear and panic. I think it's just done on purpose, because when you're in a state of fear and panic, your reptilian part of the brain gets activated and your logic goes out the window. You lower your vibration, and it's exactly what they want. They want us in a state of fear. So anything that's eliciting fear and it's like really dramatic and whatever, I try and block it all out. Just ignore it. Live your life, okay? Live in alignment with nature. Grow your own fruit and veg if you can. Okay, get your own sheep and cows if you're worried about what's happening to the ones that you're eating. Like, there are things we can do to empower ourselves. That's right. It hurts the collective consciousness and drags the frequency down. Like, well said, Blinky Bill Baby. That's a funny name. But that's exactly right. Fear is their biggest weapon. And when you're in a state of fear, your vibration is so low, okay, you cannot connect to your higher self, you cannot connect to God or whatever you believe is, if you believe in something, and you have no logic, you're just reactive, okay? So let's not subscribe to these things that are being pulled out there that are stressing us out and freaking us out. Yes, the chemtrails is real, okay, but we don't need to be afraid about that. You have some knowledge behind it. Okay, it's heavy metals. Yep. Okay, what do I need to do? Let's do a heavy metal detox, and let's protect ourselves with all these EMF shield devices or whatever. So we don't need to panic or be afraid. And I know food shortages are coming. I don't think so. I don't like. There's so much food out there. We overeat, man. Like, maybe it's a good thing. Just kidding, but. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing to worry about. Live your life, okay? Work on yourself. Work on your traumas, okay? If we want a good future, if we want to live in alignment with nature, if we want to get away from this controlled system, we need to take responsibility for ourselves. Does that make sense? If we're walking around with all these traumas and triggers and we're reactive and we want to punch on with everyone that pisses us off, we ain't going to have a very peaceful, happy world. And you know what? They're probably going to have an excuse to control every aspect of our lives. If we work on ourselves and we deal with our traumas and we work in harmony with everyone, we're not coming from a place of survival and fear, okay, which is what they've put us into because of this whole enslavement, okay, and having to work like dogs to survive and have a roof over your head. That, to me, is why we have crime in the world, because people are in a state of survival. Because of this fucked up system, okay? These resources are for everyone. No one controls the land. No one owns the fucking land, okay? Who are they to make us pay for all these things? And this is where things go wrong. So, as I was saying, the best thing we can do right now is work on ourselves and our traumas and healing a lot of the generational shit. Because if we want change, if you want a better life, we need to change things, okay? We need to, the way life has been the last hundreds of years is because our old generations have just been living very differently, okay? If we want change, we got to heal all those limiting beliefs, all those mindsets, okay? And create a better world, a better future. And I personally, I disappeared for 6 months or 8 months. Do you know why I was completely MIA? Because I was freaking dealing with a lot of my issues. I was looking in the mirror and saying, okay, your ego is a little bit out of control here. Let's sort that out. Do you know what I mean? I was doing a lot of personal healing and work. I had a lot of self-worth issues or because growing up, for example, I was taught whenever I behaved in a way that, you know, people were happy with, I was given rewards, right? So I became this people pleaser, and I never honored myself, and I just did things to please others, right? And so I manifested a freaking thyroid issue because of that. I mean, if I wanted to completely heal that and get past that, I had to deal with that people-pleasing issue where I was afraid to speak up, speak my truth, and honor me and put myself first. So this is the sort of shit we need to be doing. Energy is number one. Energy is what comes first. You can call me a little Fruit Loop or whatever the hell you want. That's fine. But this is honestly the truth. Like, and if you don't want to hear it, if you're getting triggered by it, then maybe there's something under there. I do apologize, but look in the mirror. Let's look in the mirror. Let's see what issues we need to deal with, you know? Let's work on ourselves, okay? So when shit goes, like when the time comes that we need to unite and we need to be separated from this system, we're not punching on with each other, and we're not reactive, and we're not, you know, triggering one another, or we're not, you know, getting triggered and not taking responsibility for ourselves. Because how are we going to live in healthy, thriving communities if people are, you know, sensitive because you called them a guy but they're a girl? Do you know what I'm saying? Like we need healing. We there's so much generational trauma, and it is our responsibility, okay, knowing all of this, to heal it. It ends with us, and this is my primary goal. Not fucking fighting with police officers on the side of the road. I really don't give a fuck anymore about that. My goal is to heal whatever I need to heal, and to be not a leader, but an example. To lead by example, lead by action, okay? Because I want you all to stand beside me as sovereign, free, empowered men and women, and we move forward and we create a better world. Because this planet needs a lot of fucking healing and cleaning up, because Mother Earth has had enough. She's copped enough, and we got to take after her, okay? Otherwise, we're not going to be living in a beautiful world. And this comes down to us, okay? I don't believe in that the world's ending. I don't believe in that the evil's taken over and we're all fucked. No, I believe that it's in our hands, and we choose what we want to do. We choose how we want to live. We choose what we're going to create and manifest on this planet. We choose our vibration. Every moment you're choosing. So I hope this has inspired you. And I wasn't even planning to talk about this, but it's just come out. So a bit of improvisation. And I'm so excited about the future. Like, what a time to be alive. Hey, like, what a fucking amazing time. Because we are the creators of this next world. This old world is falling apart, and we're going to be the ones to establish this new world, this new, better way of living, okay? And I honestly think only fucking really special souls can fulfill this role. And like everyone that's watching right now and resonating with this, you're one of them. We all have a role to play. And this is the time to be alive. It's fucking exciting. Like, I'm so excited. And every day, I think about, like, what do I need to do within me? What do I need to heal? How can I be a better person in this world? How can I, contribute? And it just starts with us, really. It does. And, yeah, it's just so exciting. I feel so honored and grateful to be here. Like, I really do. And I hope you guys do too, And yeah, let's just let this whole crappy system slide away. It's going to destroy itself anyway. We know who we are. We know the truth. We know we are powerful beings, and we stand in that power, and we don't let anyone bring that down, okay? So my rant is over. I love you guys too. And I'm going to go now because it's been like 2 hours. And I hope this has empowered you and educated you and, given you what you need. And let's do more of this because it's been good. All right, guys, love you and take care.